What's up, guys? We have the date for Steelers versus Vikings in Dublin, Ireland. That'll be September 28th. It's a date that had been pretty much known/expected for a few weeks now. There were some concerns, like a really minimal concern that it would have to be changed. Then they had to go and find an opponent. Then they had to get things done. I'm going to spend some of today's show talking about the last time the Steelers and Vikings played over on that side of the water. Because I was over there. It was in London. It was 2013. And it was a time, okay? And there are lessons, ideally, that would have been learned on a lot of fronts. Most of those lessons should have been learned by Mike Tomlin, who made many, many, many mistakes in that process. And again, it's not like he's not going to be reminded of some of those in the questioning that comes, especially from those of us who were over there and got to see what a mess that was. Long story short, when you go to play these overseas games, don't treat them like it's a, divisional game in Baltimore or something. Don't prioritize your practices on the south side versus your practices over there. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't benefit anyone other than coaches got to stay where coaches got to stay, which is all that happened in 2013. The Steelers and the Vikings in 2013 were both incredibly 0-3. And I say that about both teams because that was the Minnesota team that had Adrian Peterson, and they had some players. They weren't as good as the Steelers, but the Steelers were 0-3. And they went over there with this cartload of Hall of Famers, guys who were still playing like prime, Ben Roethlisberger, Troy Polamalu, Heath Miller, James Harrison, RC, that were right down the line. You couldn't turn one direction or the other without bumping into some big star. But they were 0-3. It happened. And they go over there. Well, the Vikings go over earlier. The Vikings go over when you're supposed to go over. Because no matter how in tune you feel like you are with traveling, no matter how comfortable you think, I don't do jet lag. I actually don't do jet lag. Just throwing that out there. I actually don't. I don't have jet lag issues. But most people do. And most people have a difficult time assimilating to, this is a it's a 5-hour time difference to that part of the world from Pittsburgh. It'll be 6 hours for the Vikings, obviously. The Vikings go early. And the Steelers went over there. Because I got over there by, I don't know, Wednesday or Thursday or something like that. And the Steelers showed up on Friday. And I couldn't believe it. We're at this royal something setting. There was a welcome room or conference. I mean, it's been a while now. That was 12 years ago. But I vividly recall that Ike Taylor was dispatched by Mike Tomlin and the Steelers to be the one who would speak for the Steelers. Now, A, that's awesome because no one could speak like Ike. B, he was one of the few people who could function because some guys couldn't sleep on the flight. One of those happened to be poor Lamar Woodley. And after Ike talks and just brings the house down, he was a riot. He had the British press eaten out of his hand, right? And Lamar gets to the podium. He looks like he needs help getting there. And asking, you could see this. Like, Lamar, so how does it feel to be here? It was so bad. The whole thing was so bad. So they get like one half of one practice in. And the next thing you know, it's Sunday at Wembley Stadium. And the Steelers really should have clocked this Minnesota team. Instead, they lost and they fell to 0-4. Everyone in that room to a man, took it so hard. It was the quietest Steelers room in a non-playoff setting that I'd ever covered. And I actually talk about that one a lot, because there were guys who were quiet because they couldn't believe they were 0-4. They couldn't believe the season was shot already. And there were other guys who were quiet because they still hadn't figured out where the hell they are. Coach needs to get over there earlier. That's what I'm saying. And he needs to not be himself in this sense where, he's hanging. I'm just going to be stubborn and I'm going to do things my way. And this is how we do it. And we practice on the South Side because we're the Steelers. Get over there. Get over there. Go frolicking in the hills with the Teletubbies or something. But, kill the time over there. When we come back, I'm going to be joined by Chris Halleck.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Tell you what, guys, 99 cents a month. 99 cents a month gets you frolicking in the hills with the Teletubbies. Just throwing that out there.
We just such a great visual.
We should actually list that as one of the perks of membership on the site. DKPS.net/join is the place to find that. Astro Mikey loves the visuals. Says, imagine TJ and Cam frolicking in the hills with the Teletubbies. I don't even think the Teletubbies are not an Irish thing, by the way. That was way too stereotypical on my. They're across the channel. No, that's not the channel. That's.
It's okay. Let's get to football.
But this is football. They're playing in Ireland. It's the other body of water that's between Ireland and England.
I don't remember what that's called. Yeah, the English Channel south separates England and France.
I don't know. I do know that we just got a weather report from Dublin over there. Let's see if I can find it. I believe somebody said there was 60 degrees and cloudy or whatever, which I think it is.
Clear.
Where is that? You see that? There it is. Dave Black says 60 and clear in Dublin right now. Okay, the clear part is a little uncharacteristic, but it's Chris, you've not been there before, right?
I have not.
You're going to love this place, man.
Yeah.
I'll show you around to all the hot Starbucks.
If my family doesn't come with me on this one, I'm going to make sure that we do something. The UK or just that entire area has always been on our bucket list. So it's going to be happening for like my entire family at some point. But just to have this opportunity to go cover a football game in this area of the world is pretty awesome.
Well, the coolest part of this one, because there are games in London now, obviously, all the time. All that's missing, actually, is a London franchise.
For real.
But there's never been an NFL regular season game in the country of Ireland. And we're going to be part of history there. One of the things that's going to surprise you, this has nothing to do with Ireland and everything to do with football. One of the things that's going to surprise you, because it shocked the hell out of me in London. Oh, my God, do the Vikings have fans? Like, I thought this was going to be one of those where you go over there and it's going to be, Steeler Nation takeover and whatever else. It was, Chris, 50. Everywhere you went in London, there was just as much purple as there was black and gold. I will never forget that. I've never been more impressed and stunned by the caliber and quality of a fan base than what Minnesota had. Now, a lot like the Steelers fans who were there, and this is actually pretty important too. Yeah, a lot of people do travel. It's a novelty. It's fantastic. But a lot of the traveling that gets done for these types of games is within Europe.
Yeah.
Steelers fans are coming, a lot of them from Germany, from the American military bases there, from Ramstein and so forth. Those are the people, when I was interviewing them or talking to them on the street over there, that's where they were coming from. Dublin's not going to be any different. I'm stoked. Can you tell?
Oh yeah, no, it's really, really exciting. Seriously, not only to be a part of history, but it's just. I mean, you've been there, but there's a reason why it's been on my bucket list to go to that area of the world. It's just so full of history, and yeah, I'm a fan of Guinness and Jameson too, so I'm excited to check out those places as well. So, but just to get to see the game of American football on a completely different platform, and to see the genuine excitement from fans that don't get to see it on a regular basis, that's really special.
It floors you. It floors you, and at Wembley. It obviously has its own relevance for its own reasons.
Right.
And as does Croke Park. I mean, Ireland isn't England when it comes to soccer, but they're not exactly terrible at it. As it is, the other bit of news that was attached to the announcement today, in addition to the Vikings being there, was the date and was the fact that it was confirmed 100% that it will be week 4. The NFL schedule will be released in its entirety tomorrow night?
Yes, tomorrow night, 8:00 on
tomorrow
NFL
night. Do we care? I mean, we know who they're playing. We know who's home. We know who's on the road. I guess you have to say that after last year, right?
Yeah, you have to, because the way it's. I mean, if you have another 3 games in 11 days and they're against 3 of the very best teams in the NFL, 2 of them on the road, and that's a. And also, like, what if they play in LA a week before they go to Ireland?
Well, there's usually some common sense that's involved in that. Like, you have to have, I think there's an unwritten rule in the NFL that when you do these games, you have to have a Sunday the day or the week before, and you have to have a Sunday the week after. You don't do any of the clever stuff, the short weeks. But without getting too far ahead on the actual composition of the schedule, to me, what that says is that early on, I think you're going to see some normalcy in the Steelers schedule apart from going overseas. And you'll end up with all those goofy Thursdays and holidays and everything else later on, which could mean a sequel of 2024. It doesn't necessarily have to be 3 games against absolute monsters in 11 days.
Yeah.
Okay. But it does mean that it could get a little rougher as it goes.
Yeah, what you'd probably like to see, because the NFL definitely did kind of deal the Steelers a bad hand with the schedule last year. Not only the fact of that 3-game stretch, but all of their division games in the last 8 weeks of the season. Like, that's kind of a low blow. You know, that's not normal. You know, usually you want to see a division game. This isn't college football. Usually you want to see a division game somewhat early in the season. It doesn't have to be week 1 or week 2. But you want to see something to get, Steelers Ravens or Steelers Bengals or something where you're getting, an exciting rival, type game early on in the season. And it wasn't until week 11 last year that it was Steelers Ravens, and then it was 6 division games in 8 weeks. That's you'd like to see, knowing what the Steelers are going to have to navigate with Ireland early in the season. That I'm not saying that they get a break down the stretch, but maybe they don't have to play 6 division games in 8 weeks this time, or something along those lines. Maybe it's something where it balances out a little bit easier.
Gene Smith says that the Steelers schedule is still pretty rough this year. I don't think so. Where did that show up on the old SOS meter?
I don't know. I mean, they have to play the entire NFC North, and the NFC North was the best division in football last year. I forget what AFC division they're playing. I have to look at it.
I thought I saw a strength of schedule. I might have saved it here somewhere. Strength of schedule guide that it was nowhere near what last year's was. Let's put it that way. Now I didn't save it. Someone else might have it. Trevor Barnes says Ireland is amazing, great beer. I mean, I don't drink, so that doesn't help me. Ridiculously hard golf. Well, the golf over there, and remember, it's their game.
Yeah.
The golf over there is really, it's a different sport. It's about length. It's not about making pretty courses and roses and piano music and all that master stuff. It's gritty. Here's a bunch of hills. Go hit the ball. Now get walking.
Yeah, it's a link style. It's link style
Yes.
golf. That's why the British Open is one of my favorites, especially whenever you talk about all the golf tournaments. I always I love watching it over there. Every time my dad actually got a chance to play last summer at St. Andrews in Scotland.
Oh, really? Wow, that's amazing. You never told me that.
Yeah, he paid a pretty penny for it, but
he did.
Yeah. But just to get a chance to even walk on those grounds, much less play on them. It's really, really special to see the type of golf over there. And I mean, it's better for me because I shoot so wildly, like I just don't want trees in the way. But yeah, you've got a whole bunch of other things to get in your way. But it's really cool. I'm super excited. For real. It's awesome.
No, as Carol's asking if there's Starbucks. Yeah, Starbucks everywhere except Iceland. And even Iceland used to, not Ireland, but Iceland. Even Iceland used to have a Starbucks, and then no one there was interested, so they closed it. That was the end of that. But everywhere else, like you can find a Starbucks anywhere. In fact, I have pictures from it. The reason that I was there, incidentally, in 2019 was that one of my favorite bands from a long time ago, the Vapors, a group that did Turning Japanese and some other songs, reunited after 30 years. And they just happened to have their first show in Dublin, Ireland. And when I heard that, it took me all of about 5 minutes to book that flight, even though the Steelers were playing in Miami that weekend. Who was the dude from the Dolphins that ran for like 1,000 yards against them that weekend?
Oh, man.
This was in 2019.
2019.
Was it Jay Ajayi?
Okay.
That's who it was. It's like 224 yards, I think, right?
That makes sense.
Well, anyway, I had to get from here to Dublin, see the concert. It was on a Friday night. And then use my Saturday to travel from Dublin to Miami. Look at that triangle on a map. And then get there and watch this guy trample the Steelers. It was raining. Meaning it was raining in Miami. Yeah, Josh Dobbs says, yeah, that's correct. It was a giant. It was raining. It was miserable in Miami like it always is. Yeah. And covered that game, went home, had no idea what the hell just happened to me. But I actually got to meet the band too, which was really cool.
That is awesome. Mr. CJ Jr. asks if we're going to wear kilts.
That's not an Irish thing.
That's a Scottish thing.
Get out of here, CJ. What the heck is that?
But I did also see somebody. I don't know if it's because I wear hats all the time, but I do not have red hair. I have very, very much like dark blonde hair.
Don't be lumping them all, Kilts. You know what's one cool thing about Irish people? My experience there, which was not an extensive one. We're talking about a day and a half, right? But I went all over town. Like I really soaked it up. Yeah. They are funny and they enjoy being funny. Like in public settings, you go into like a I don't know, pharmacy or something to buy something. Somebody's got a joke for you or whatever. It's like, what a cool trait that is to identify a people by.
What? How are people debating the color of my hair? I know what color my hair is.
Everything about your picture today looks red. That's why.
Well, I understand that. I do look really rosy today. It's interesting. Maybe it's just the lighting in here. That's definitely not red. I don't have red hair.
You have red beard, though.
I guess, yeah. Michael Barnett says Croke Park, Ireland is the home of Gaelic sports. They wear kilts in Ireland. I don't know. Kilts are Scottish, right?
Yeah.
Don't make me keep looking up stuff on a live show.
Yeah. No, they're Scottish. My stepmom is Scottish.
Kilts in Ireland.
My stepmom is full blood Scottish.
Kilts are worn in Ireland, says Mr. AI, though their history and use differ from that of Scottish kilts. What do I know about anything? They do have a Starbucks there. They also have, in the heart of Dublin, this giant pole. I have no idea what this thing is. I never looked it up. It's like hundreds of feet tall, and it's just a pole. And it's in the heart of town. I see. Somebody else is going to tell me what the pole is about, but that's like their big monument. They don't have it's not real heavy on skyscrapers and stuff. So the pole really stands out. Now, the next thing you know, somebody's going to tell me, hey, shut up. That's some religious thing. You can't be poking fun at that. But it's a pole, and there's no flag on it. There isn't a flag that ever makes it up there. It's just a pole. So if anybody knows what that is, no, it's not a stripper pole. That stripper would be in for quite some plunge from way, way up there. And no, it's not a mobile tower either for phones. Kyle Mundy says the pole of destiny. I don't know if he's joking or not. DV says they're really into Festivus. That's good. James says Dublin is a big, small town. That's probably the best way to put it. It's like the oldish part of London. Just like Paris has a section like that. But most of Paris is like that, the oldish section. But unlike London and Paris, Dublin doesn't have that part of town with the skyscrapers and everything. Like, you know how those are set off in London and Paris? Like, oh, here's the modern part way over here. Dublin doesn't have that. Dublin is just Dublin. There's an airport and there's a whole lot of Dublin. Yeah. And that's pretty much it. Alex Flores says the pole is the spirit of Dublin. I mean, it's just a pole. Yinzer says it's called the Ballycommon Mast. But am I right that it's just a pole? Like, it doesn't do anything. It's just a giant pole.
I guess we'll have to see when we're over there.
Slanak says that the pole is a monument. The Spire of Dublin.
How tall is this pole?
Chris wants us to talk about the Steelers. The Steelers are going to Dublin, dude. You know, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. It's a huge deal. And it's, we now know who they're playing and when. I mean, I watched, just for fun, I watched prices of plane tickets, airfares go up this morning. They spiked by about $600.
Didn't affect us, my man.
No, it did not. No, it did not.
Some of us booked well in advance.
It did not.
But it's going to be interesting to see how many people make it over there and everything else here. And it is going to be interesting to see the impact on the team as it relates to the schedule. If there's a preference that I would have for the schedule upon release, and thinking about that for tomorrow night, I actually wouldn't mind seeing it to some extent be front heavy.
Oh, yeah.
And not just because of what happened last season.
Yeah.
If you're going to see things that are going to go wrong, and I always say this for your team in any sport, find out right away. I mean, you don't have to find out at a bloodbath like the Pirates have over the past 5 weeks. Okay. They found out real hard and real fast. Yeah. Okay. But you want it to be something like where you go, all right, maybe this isn't the answer. Maybe this guy isn't the, and you can start making improvements and then get stronger and more confident as the season goes. And that to me means, as some people on here have been kind of throwing around out there, let's have that early division game. That was a joke last year, by the way, not playing any division games until halfway through. Yeah,
that's what I was saying earlier. It's just, I mean, not until week 11 to play the Ravens, and then it's 6 division games in 8 weeks. That's crazy. The other part of that is if your tougher games are earlier in the season, that's also when you're facing, you hear Mike Tomlin talk a lot about September ball. Teams haven't quite, everything's been installed, but they're not quite hitting the ground running yet. This is a good time to catch, Josh Allen before he gets going. This is the time to catch maybe Justin Herbert before he gets going. To play those really, really good teams possibly before they have a chance to really establish themselves and get on a roll, because for the teams that end up competing, they're usually turning things on by November, December, January, and to work out the kinks. I mean, the Eagles are a really good example of that from last year. Early on, there was no talk about Super Bowl at that point. It was, are they going to be able to figure some stuff out and be able to get into the playoffs? And then once they figured everything out, it was a complete 180. And then they all of a sudden became a very, very much a legitimate Super Bowl contender, and they showed everybody why. But work those kinks out earlier in the season whenever everybody else is also working the kinks out.
Yeah, and one thing to factor in for all the romanticism and everything else that'll come with being overseas, being in Ireland and all that other stuff is that the Vikings are really, really good. I know they're going to have a kid at quarterback, and that usually is something that can work to your favor, but they got everything else, and the kid might be good too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they made a pretty significant, I feel, risk in just letting Sam Darnold walk after the season that they had collectively. But that's going to be a pretty good opponent right off the bat. I don't know that anybody's even going to be talking about that today, but that's an early test.
Oh, 100%.
Unto itself. And, we're talking about the teams that are in didn't Chris Berman used to refer to that as the NFC Norris? Right? Based on the old hockey divisions.
Yeah, I think so.
Minnesota, Detroit, and all those teams over there. That's going to be a challenge too. Danny Blay says, right on that note, that wasn't going to take long. We should have kept Brian Flores. But Flores's process didn't work with Tomlin's. I don't think it was a compatibility thing. I don't think it was an arrogance thing. I don't think it was you can't have two head coaches. They just didn't have the same philosophies.
Yeah, the Minnesota
philosophies.
Yeah, Minnesota plays different defense than the Steelers, and of course, everybody's going to say, "Well, they play better defense than the Steelers, so they should." Yeah, but some of that's personnel, some of that is, there are always a bunch of variables that go into it. It's not as simple as it boils down to who the defensive coordinator or head coach is. There are so many variables that go into it.
Carol, who's still pulling for Mason Rudolph to be the quarterback, says that our quarterback might be good too, and she doesn't have to say who she's talking about because I know all this. UKW says, DK, I'm coming to your store in August, and then I will see you in Dublin. Sean Patrick, who's from Belfast, he says Belfast, Ireland, but that can be touchy over there. Belfast is in Northern Ireland, which is actually a separate everything, especially since one of them is now in the EU and one of them is not. Yeah. They actually have their borders back, and that's a really sensitive thing. And we might get into some of the history of that as we get over there. Stiegel says that Tomlin helped Flores stay in the NFL. That's what happened.
Yeah.
That he made sure that the NFL wasn't going to be able to pull a blackballing on him after what had happened between Flores and the Dolphins and everything else. He's like, hey, you're right here. So his move from Pittsburgh to the Vikings became seamless. No, it's just team to team. No big deal, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and it just goes to show too that when Flores was with the Steelers, he may not have been a coordinator or anything along those lines, but he definitely had a big enough impact on the Steelers that it just showed everybody that regardless of lawsuits or whatever else is going on, that this guy needs to be coaching in the NFL. And
John Davis says, who would you prefer to be the starting slot corner today? For anybody who doesn't know, the candidates at the moment would appear to be Beanie Bishop and Brandon Eccles. And I know the 7th round pick is in that mix too, but I mean, realistically, Beanie was out there. Beanie made the splash plays that he did, and Eccles comes over with some credentials too. In addition to having the flexibility to go inside and out, the Beanie doesn't. So within that, my feeling on this is that splash is a lot harder to produce than regular old just do your job coverage. Okay, no, I could be wrong on this. I could actually be 180 degrees wrong on this, but I'm just throwing it out there. Okay, I value Beanie's splash. I value the 2 of his picks came against Aaron Rodgers. I value that Beanie was able to do that in the face of constantly hearing from the head coach and from others that he wasn't good enough. Now, what are Beanie's shortcomings? I guess we can start there, Chris. What are the things that you go, oh, man, I don't know. I don't think he can do this.
Well, he definitely got beat quite a bit in coverage. He's not the reason why he's in the slot is because you're not trusting him to be straight up man all the time. Then when it came to zone coverage, sometimes it's just not passing a guy off quickly enough, or it's hard to kind of say things without really kind of visualizing it, but sometimes just flat out busted coverages. I remember one specifically against the Colts, and I think it led to a touchdown where they were in zone coverage and he was operating that as if it was man, and he's the one guy doing that. Everybody else was in zone, and he starts running with a guy. Of course, when you're in zone defense and you leave your zone, that's a big problem. Yeah, and left a gaping hole in the defense, and the Colts exploited it and scored a touchdown. So the coverage stuff has to be cleaned up for sure. But he's a strong tackler, and he got better, especially throughout the course of the season. I think he could end up being their guy for sure. I don't know how high the ceiling is. I mean, he was undrafted for a reason. Not saying undrafted guys can't turn into successes. They can, but the percentages are the percentages for a reason. But we'll see. We'll see what he does. It'll be a completely different process for him. He's going to, instead of having to go through the draft process, going undrafted, signing as an undrafted free agent, going through that entire thing, now he has an entire offseason to learn the defense as it's getting installed and go through the entire offseason preparing for that role. So it is definitely different. The second time around the track, as Mike Tomlin likes to put it.
Josh Cook comes in with 10 gifts. Brent comes in with 20 gifts. Appreciate that from all concerned. Florida Dave says, I'm coming up for a game this season. I assume you mean to Pittsburgh and not Dublin. How does one get a visit to the press box? Answer, one does not.
With a credential.
Well, it's not even now with the NFL. It's not just a credential. It's like all Star Trek-y. You got to walk around. Chris and I are doing iris scans. Like every other door that we pass through now, because the NFL, you're going to think I'm making this up, but Chris can back me up on this.
Oh, my gosh.
They want to track everybody's movement in the stadium for security purposes. They want to know where we are at all times. So everywhere we go, there's this thing that you look into. It looks a lot like the thing that they're using now for TSA at airports. Mm-hmm. Okay, where you peek in and then it shows you a picture of yourself and says, hello, welcome.
Yeah.
Except in Philadelphia, where the thing says something really mean to you.
Yeah.
I'm spending the weekend there this coming weekend, so I'm getting ready for all their hospitality. But that part is that part's crazy. That's all just been over the last 2-3 years. It was like a post-COVID thing.
But yeah, because like we get downstairs for a home game and we get in line to get to where, like, cause there's this one area where the door is where you can either go right to go into the press conference room, or you can go left to go toward where the lockers are. You have to have your face scanned there. Then once you go through the door to go to the locker room, you have to have your face scanned again 15 feet later.
Yeah. You get in line just to get in line.
It's actually kind of funny.
See what else we have here.
I got one right here from Jim. Do the Steelers have an extra home game this year? That's what the Ireland game is. Yeah,
that's what this is. Yeah, it's technically the Steelers are the host team, which actually just doesn't matter at all.
Yeah,
I think what's the benefit of being a home team in a neutral site? Do you get like the last call on the coin flip or something?
Well, I mean, for the Vikings, for example. Now, granted, the NFC
pick your end zone.
Well, the NFC is the conference that has 8 home and 9 on the road this year. But because Minnesota's playing back to back in Dublin then London, that's 2 of their away games. They're designated away games that, I mean, they were going to be on the road no matter what, and so they still have all their 8 home games. And now, 2 of their 9 road games are these spectacle international games. Mm-hmm. But just for everybody, so that people just don't think the Steelers are giving away a home game, this is like par for the course when it comes to all the teams that end up hosting an international game. You eventually have to give away a home game on a year where you have 9 home games. So this is not something that's just out of the ordinary that the NFL's doing to the Steelers or the Steelers volunteered to do. It was going to happen at some point.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers haven't played internationally in forever. Most teams do it like fairly regularly. I
12 years later.
Really strange. Mm-hmm. So Pittsburgh has less of a cause to complain about anything related to this by comparison here. Rick asks if I think that Mike Tomlin's learned his lesson and will take the team over earlier this time. I mean, we're not going to have a chance to ask him that for a while. And even then, if you think about it, if I go and I ask that question in Latrobe, he's going to say, we're nowhere near figuring that stuff out. That's just going to be the answer. So you're not going to get anything out of it. I can pretty much presume that we're not going to find out stuff like that until about, meaning Chris and I, until maybe 2 or 3 weeks before, or if the Steelers start giving some kind of sense for when they're actually going to head over, just as an meaning for practices and stuff, so that we can be there and responsibly cover those practices. I had a conversation just yesterday with the Penguins about their trip in November to Stockholm, Sweden, and they're just beginning to try to figure out what in heck's even going to happen over there.
Yeah.
You know, where are they going to practice? What are the practice facilities in Stockholm, Sweden? Who the hell knows? You get a lot of work to do here. So I think in the Steelers and the Vikings case, I'm pretty sure that they're either going to be practicing at Croke Park or very near it.
Yeah.
But it's going to, my point is Tomlin's not going to want to answer it because he's going to get defensive right away because it's going to bring up a lot of bad memories, and that's just how he rolls. But we'll see.
I
Greg
do
wants to know if he's going to reconsider. I have no idea, Greg. That's up to him.
Yeah, I mean, just based off of, because obviously whenever a trip like this is happening, you try to be in communication as much as you can with the team on this kind of stuff, and nothing is official whatsoever. But I think there is an expectation that they're going to go over earlier. But that's an expectation right now.
I would hope so. Earlier than Friday.
May. Yeah. It's May right now. Again, nothing is ironed out, but I'm planning. I mean, we already have our stuff booked. I'm already planning to go over earlier because that's the expectation.
John Malesko asks if they like Styx in Dublin. My guess is I have no idea, actually. Preston Powell says, will they play Renegade in Dublin? I think they should play Come On Eileen. Hang on. Now I have to check if Dexy's Midnight Runners are Irish. Hang on. See, they're not. English pop rock band. I'm not going to get good at this. They're from Birmingham, England. And I just dropped them down as if they're Irish.
That's a big
not
no-no
okay.
too. No, that's a big no-no.
Got to get better at this.
Yeah.
All right. How about this? U2. Only one of the world's biggest bands over the last 30, 40 years. They're from right there.
Where were the Cranberries?
Sunday Bloody Sunday is perfect. Especially if they get, if they lose.
I would say, weren't the Cranberries from Ireland?
Cranberries.
Yes.
She says yes.
Yeah. Zombie is like one of my literally like top 5 all-time favorite songs. Like seriously.
Wow.
Oh, Cranberry.
What you should find is after she died.
Mm-hmm.
And I apologize for not remembering her name. Dolores was her name.
There was a band called
Dolores O'Riordan. When she passed away tragically at a very young age, 46. There is a choir of people singing Zombie.
Mm-hmm.
Just do a YouTube search on it. It's unbelievable. Your skin will like crawl.
So there's also a metal band called Bad Wolves that did a cover of Zombie and was going to have her that was going to have her either accompany them or something. She was involved in the process and she passed away throughout the process of them doing a cover of it. And they ended up changing one of the lyrics on it because it came out in like 2016 or 2017 where they changed one of the lyrics in the verses to make it more modern, but it ended up being in terms of covers, one of the best covers I've ever heard.
Wow.
Like the cover is phenomenal.
William Griffin points out that Thin Lizzy, and talk about somebody else who passed away at a very tragically young age, Phil Lynott, the singer for Thin Lizzy. If you don't know who that is, that was the Boys Are Back in Town group. They had other songs too, Jailbreak and so forth. That was actually when I started playing guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn all the Thin Lizzy riffs and everything. It's a lot of fun. I should throw out there. Van Morrison Seriously?
Wow.
Thin Lizzy has a Renegade? I don't know anything about that. What are the Irish Rovers? Yeah, Cranberries. I mean, you talk about it leaving behind a catalog, though. Man,
Mm-hmm.
what absolute art
Mm-hmm.
That stuff was. P-Town says, one of the best Steelers coverage channels on YouTube. And so somebody says, wow, okay, let's take a look at it. And they open it up and they see us talking about Irish rock.
Hey, the Steelers are playing. It was announced today the Steelers are going to be playing in Dublin. I should be wearing. I have a green St. Patrick's Day hoodie laying on my couch right over there. That should just go put on right now. I got a Guinness sign on my bar right behind me above my head. Like, let's celebrate Ireland today. This is awesome. Good stuff.
Yeah, obviously, man. We're gonna a little bit of a roll here of people who passed away too early. And Sinead O'Connor. Yeah, and then somebody else points out Sunday Bloody Sunday is not exactly the song to be playing in Ireland.
No.
One gets the idea. But see, that's part of that whole thing there is that's one of the things we're going to be talking about a lot when we're over there is, there's a lot of small little. Now I'm worried about what terminology I use, fiefdoms or whatever. There's just, and they all have some kind of history, either with each other or against each other. And my family and my ancestry being Serbian, we know that stuff as well as anybody.
Ryan says Sleep Token. I think Sleep Token is English. I don't think they're Irish.
Yeah, same thing goes for Boomtown Rats. Bob Geldof's English.
Sleep Token, by the way, that's my current obsession right now. I am doing nothing but listen to them.
Boomtown Rats?
No, Sleep Token.
Oh, okay.
They are exploding on Spotify, and I have jumped on the bandwagon over the last couple of months.
Anya is Irish?
Mm.
I mean, if the game is boring, that could be Renegade, right? Like, can you imagine? Like, they're pumping in Anya, the scoreboard goes dark, and everybody's standing up with the towels, and then this music starts playing where you feel like you're getting a massage. We don't have to talk football here, okay? We just don't. She actually likes these shows a lot better. She actually pays attention. Tyler Michael wants to know how Will Howard looked during rookie minicamp. Nobody. He didn't throw a football.
Not while we were there. No.
No, I'm not saying that to be facetious. Right. Yeah. With the sessions that we saw, this is how this went. Okay. He would drop back. There would be something. Arthur Smith would tell him something, whatever else here, and guys would go out for a pass, whatever else. Okay, and he would do this, and he'd look, and he'd check, and then he'd just
toss it to the equipment guy,
and turn around and toss it to the assistant equipment guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Who was somewhere behind him, and then that was it. So we didn't see anything. There's not. How did they look?
Rookie minicamp is not the time to do that. It's just not. I even wrote, like, right after minicamp, rookie minicamp was over, I wrote, like, the true value of rookie minicamp is off the field. It is the assimilation, the education, everything that happens in the classroom. It is getting ready to learn what life in the NFL is like when you go into the building, what it's like to grab your playbook and go into the meeting room and doing all the stuff that doesn't actually take place on the football field. That's where the true value of it all is.
You know what, Chris? I meant to ask you this because this came up on my morning show, the Daily Shot of Steelers.
Mm-hmm.
The J1Q today asked pretty pointedly, what is Will Howard's fatal flaw? Because as you go through his checklist, okay, I mean, he's not like some blazer when it comes to speed. There's obvious things here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But when you go through his checklist, what's wrong with him that he'd fall to the 6th round? Independent of the draft process itself, like, what's wrong with him?
So, obviously, there's a few things here and there when it comes to... I wouldn't say there's one big fatal flaw. The arm isn't elite. It's good, but it's not elite. But if there's one thing I have to point to, it's the fact that, and it's not really his fault. So you can't blame him for it, but it's just, Danny says not an elite arm, but it's a good arm. It's not like it's a bad arm. It's just not.
It's an NFL arm. It's an
not,
NFL arm.
Yeah. It's just not Josh Allen. That's it's not a cannon. It's not Ben Roethlisberger's arm. It's just not that type of an arm. But again, it's not his fault, but he threw to his first read a lot, but that's because his first read was open a lot.
He was college open. That was the point that I was making, was that I saw. Yeah. I'm sorry. I absolutely want you to finish, just to throw this in before I forget. Yeah. I saw, for example, in the national championship game against Notre Dame, he goes 14 of 15 in the first half. But when you actually watch that first half, which I did in its entirety, he should have gone 14 of 15. Okay.
Yeah.
He executed. That was great. But I thought his better passes, his higher quality NFL passes, actually came in the second half. You got to see some bullets. You got to see some threading the needle. You got to see one deep ball. That to me is what gave me more hope. So you're right. He can't do anything about what it is that the Buckeyes tell him. Here, execute this. Execute the playbook.
Yeah, if he's throwing to these guys and Emeka Egbuka is his first read and he's open all the time, how are you going to blame the guy for not throwing to his first read when he's open? You're doing the right thing, but that's not going to happen at the NFL level. There will be times your first read's open, and it's the easiest throw to make. But what happens when your first read is not open? I mean, how quickly do you go from 1 to 2? How quickly do you go from 2 to 3? How quickly do you get to your check down? How is your internal clock whenever you are making those reads? And there's just not a big enough sample size.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also not sure that he can throw open. That's the other part of the arm part of it, is the anticipation level and throwing to guys when you are not releasing the ball, when you start to separate the ball to begin your entire motion. How covered up is the receiver? Is he still way, way covered up and you are throwing into a window that you expect him to be in? Or do you have to wait because you don't trust your eyes or trust your receiver to then get rid of it, and now you're throwing it late? That's another big part of it. And it's all, I would say, an incomplete report on Howard because his team that he was playing on was so freaking good. That's the best way I can put it.
Chloe says, I like what I saw in the championship.
He was great in the playoffs. He was a lot better and I know that the playoffs,
all 4 games.
Yeah. I know that his performance in the playoffs are what helped change the Steelers' opinion of him. Mainly Mike Tomlin's opinion of him.
Phil says Rudolph and Howard are really the only quarterbacks we should be talking about. Well, I mean, they're the ones who are here. So regardless of how you feel about Aaron Rodgers, these guys are actually here. So I happen to share that sentiment on multiple levels here. There's still people talking about Deion's kid. I don't get that at all. How far do you have to fall for what the network did to you on this? Yeah. Take the L and move on, meaning that the network really suckered a lot of people in on this story. And they got everybody talking about it, which was the only thing they wanted to do. Mm-hmm. All 32 teams
passed on him.
Yeah.
How many times passed on him?
How many times? And even the one that ended up getting him, it looked like they were forced to get him.
Seriously. That looked like ownership called and said, take him. That's what it looked like.
I'm
not saying that's what happened. I'm just saying.
Says, do you see what he's doing? Who cares?
It's rookie minicamp.
No.
Who's he throwing against?
Who cares in general? Who the hell is he? Okay. Honest to God. And then what happens? Now everybody starts jumping in. Oh, he's overhyped. He won't see the field and everything else. Just let it go. He doesn't matter. He never mattered. The
Steelers brought him in to have a pre-draft visit. You just have to find out. You have to find out. And you bring him in for a pre-draft visit, and it might have been enough to just say, yeah, we're not going to take him. We don't know how that meeting went, regardless of what anybody's reporting. All that matters is what actually happened in the draft. They had the chance to take him multiple times and said no.
Exactly. Going to take just a couple more today. Actually, we're just going to take one more today since I'm seeing a lot of Dejan's kid on here now. And I'm definitely not taking any of those. No, Dejan's kid. Come on, people. Be smarter than that. No offense, but really,
I did star a couple that were not.
Here's one, Chris. Where are the carry splits between Jalen Warren and Caleb Johnson per game by the end of the year? That's a great question, even though it requires seeing
foresight
into the future. Yeah, and I know that the problem with that question is that if we ask it, all the answers are going to be, well, that depends on how he pass protects. That depends on his blocking. Depends on his blocking, pass protection. But realistically, if he can run, if he can tote the ball, he's gonna get it.
Robert here says 30-70. I don't know if that's in favor of Warren or Johnson.
Warren was mentioned first, so
yeah, I don't think it's going to be that heavily skewed one way or the other. I think it's going to be pretty even by the time the season comes to an end. I think Warren will definitely, even if Caleb Johnson looks great in training camp, in backs on backers, and even in preseason and pass protection, I still think Warren is going to be the RB1 at the beginning of the season. I'm not so convinced. I'm more of this, what Preston says, more of a 60-40.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, I'm thinking more that. I definitely think, and now granted, you have to look up how many touches Najee had last year, and then you pretty much have to take all those touches and divvy them up. Johnson's going to get his touches.
Let's not forget Kenny Gainwell, too. If you're going to do percentages here, Kenny Gainwell is going to be a 5 or 10 guy, I think. I really believe that. I think he's just a kick returner.
Yeah, he'll get some. But I think if Warren continues on his path, and then Johnson lives up to the hype of being one of the better running backs in this class, and it's a really, really great fit for the way Arthur Smith wants to run the football, and they've got a two-headed monster in the backfield, I have a hard time seeing Kenny Gainwell getting any touches of significance just because you don't want to take the ball out of either Warren or Johnson's hand. I mean, think about it. If you have a Detroit situation where you have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, and they're both healthy, those two are getting the football 90 to 95% of the time.
Yeah, I think so too. I also think there might be specific situations, and don't forget that Arthur Smith, you might have heard, loves the pitch out.
Yeah,
and he loves it even more when he has running backs that can execute the pitch out, as opposed to the one who's now the backup for the Chargers. And what you can do is, if you say, for example, I'm going back to training camp, whatever it was, 3-4 years ago, when Anthony McFarland was being set up to be that guy, remember?
Yeah.
And it was all, oh my God, the training camp was all Ant Mac. You thought he was going to be the feature back. He was the one who was being told to go hit the edges because there needed to be somebody. This is obviously pre-Arthur, okay? Mm-hmm. But, Ant Mac got some stuff done in the preseason and in training camp, and then not so much in the regular season. So we'll see how this goes. Hovain says, are we watching the playoffs? Dude, how could we not be watching the playoffs every night? I mean, Winnipeg is tonight. Winnipeg and Dallas. I know Chris and I will be watching that one.
I have bragging rights right now, but it's still
no Game 4 is tonight. I didn't watch as much of the two games last night. The Washington Carolina series, Capitals and Hurricanes, hasn't interested me all that much. I've seen it as pretty much the Hurricanes are just owning the puck throughout, and then the other one, the late game, the Oilers are just starting to outscore the opposition, which is what they do. Mm-hmm. Is there any team that stands out for you in the playoffs, though, so far, Chris? Like one where you just say, wow, they're really starting to shape themselves up?
I mean, honestly, both. I really think, and I'm not just saying this because we're watching the series, but the Jets and the Stars to me are. I mean, the Stars are doing what they're doing without Miro Heiskanen.
Right. Well, although that's supposed to change tonight.
Yeah, and
That's the word. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Dallas is that he's going to play tonight.
And that's like, okay, they've done what they've done without their best defenseman, who's not just a defenseman. He also is one of the best in hockey in terms of breaking the puck out of the zone and creating offense from defense. And by the way, I just have to say, Morrissey's move to set
Josh
up
Morrissey.
Oh
sickening.
my gosh.
Yeah. Sickening. What a player that is.
That was gross. That was
what
sick.
an absolute hockey player he is. I think game 4 is going to be the best game of the series tonight. Game up in Winnipeg, and I'm not just saying that because it's in Winnipeg and because of the whiteout and everything else. Or wait, it's in Dallas. What am I saying?
Game 4 is in Dallas.
It's in Dallas, and as Berg Boy points out, Connor Hellebuck hasn't been great on the road, although I don't think he was the problem for the Jets the other day at all. I mean, Mikko Rantanen is still playing on some other level right now. If there's a team that I see, Chris, that's starting to do its thing, it's the defending champs.
Yeah.
Okay. I see the Panthers starting to now. They still got to get past the perpetual losers, but I think that's going to happen. Okay, and I think once you see the Panthers get more comfortable with adding Brad Marchand and stuff like that, and Matthew Tkachuk starts getting his wheels back after his long injury, man, you're going to have something here. Steeler Girl gets us closed out here with a Steelers question. She says, are Steelers still waiting for the old man? Just wondering. You can have that, Chris.
Yes, they are. There's no deadline. Nothing's changed. I saw some comments after Omar spoke to the media on Friday about the George Pickens trade, and there wasn't one question about Aaron Rodgers. And I saw some comments like, why wasn't anybody asking? It's because nothing's changed. It's pretty much been the same thing. They're willing to wait, but the only other thing that I can say about that is that they are not on this Rodgers or bust situation. They are monitoring other options on that, but how much they're monitoring it or being proactive on that remains yet to be seen. But I think the more time that passes without Rodgers actually saying, all right, I'm coming and I'm going to sign my contract, and you actually get pen on paper, I think the more time that passes, the more they might start to look into those options, whatever they are, whether it be Kirk Cousins or any other possible option. So
appreciate you guys. We'll do it again tomorrow. All right, let's do our business thing here. How was the ending, huh? What'd you think? Huh? It was all right, huh? Well, very good tomorrow. let's get about thanking some. That's me. I'm making fun of me. Eric came in with a gift. Lyle Kropp has been with us for 2 years as of today. Really appreciate the support, Lyle. That's very cool. YouTube, by the way, puts these up. These are automated. They're not like Lyle's going in there bragging, look at me. Josh Dobbs came in with 1. Josh Cook came in with 10. Dave dropped a $5 bill on us here. Chris came in with 5 gifts. We had a couple of 20s, one from Brent, another one from our man Vic. Chris Arkwright with a couple of bucks. Katie's getting perilously close to her 2-year anniversary. Appreciate you guys. You can see that the memberships are $2,299. A little bit of the fluctuation, a little down from yesterday. But the more that people will come in and get their own gifts, which you get by going to dkps.net/join. You have to type that into the URL. That's what really builds up the number over the long haul, and that's what will get us up to 3,000 by the time training camp starts. Weird show today. Hope you guys liked it. I had fun with it. We will, in fact, do one of these tomorrow, and see you then.